Camel Park. I'm Kate Humble.
And I'm Ben Fogle, and we're travelling on the train that was specially built for Longleat over 30 years ago, and it's still going strong today.
In fact, it proved so popular with visitors that they had to bring in a special diesel train to cope with passenger numbers.
Well, while we continue our tour around the park, here's what's coming up on today's programme.
This baby Bactrian camel was born with a dodgy leg. Will he learn to stand up for himself?
It's breeding time at the aviary, and not an ugly duckling in sight.
And Ben steps boldly into the lion's den.
Hey! Hey! Go on! See, when you bend down, you're vulnerable.
Right, I feel even more vulnerable now.
But first, alongside Ankoli cattle and deer, scimitar horned oryx and white rhino, live Longleat's 6 Bactrian camels. Native to the Gobi Desert and plains of Central Asia, Bactrian camels have evolved to withstand one of the most extreme climates in the world. Their shaggy coats protect them from driving winds and extreme cold, allowing them to survive in temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees. Sadly, Bactrians are now critically endangered in the wild, and so keepers are eager to breed them in the park. There are 5 females living here, and 1 adolescent male called Khan. Khan joined the herd just 2 years ago as a calf, and keepers thought it would be a few years yet before he reached sexual maturity. But today, to the keeper's surprise, one of the females has started showing some unusually broody behaviour.
What we've noticed this morning is that Barley, one of our Bactrian camels, has been going away from the group, and she's been showing an enormous amount of restlessness this morning. She goes right away, and she appears to be looking for somewhere to give birth. That, coupled with the size of her udder, is really suggesting to me that she's very close to calving.
The baby could arrive any time now, so Tim and Deputy Head of Section Kevin Nibbs set to work turning the stable into a comfy nursery.
With sort of an imminent birth, we have to make sure that we can get the pens prepared for her, for comfort, and then we have to keep watching her all the time to make sure that when she gives birth, she'll actually look after it properly, and if she doesn't, we can step in and help her in any way we need to.
We're talking sort of hours rather than anything else. I think it's imminent, really.
Once the pen is ready, Barley is brought into the house with her mum, Mrs. Bruce, for company.
Yeah, no, we do is just leave it quiet and let nature take its course.
Now all Tim and Kevin can do is wait and see if tomorrow will bring a brand new Bactrian baby.
Over the park, the breeding season is underway and baby animals are emerging into the sunshine. Over at the aviary, the sacred ibis are getting broody. Last year, they successfully raised 4 chicks, even though they made their nests on the ground and ignored the specially built nesting platforms.
Come on, guys, come and get your nests.
Not long ago, I went down with keeper Michelle Stevens to make sure that they had enough sticks to make their nests again this year. A few weeks have passed, and now I want to see if our hard work has encouraged the ibis to breed. So, on a windy spring day, I've come down to check up on their progress.
I'm in the aviary with Head of Section Mark Tighe, and spring has definitely come now. This is peak breeding season, so have they done anything?
Yes, definitely. Up in the tree up there, got 2 ibis nests.
Wow! Fantastic!
Yeah, they've sensibly this year built up the tree.
And have you been, I suppose it's a bit difficult to tell whether they've got eggs or not.
Well, I've seen eggs in the first nest, in the lower one. There's definitely 2 eggs in that one. So I should imagine there's 2 eggs in the other. I mean, they both reared successfly last year, so I don't see why they shouldn't this year either.
Oh, that's great news. Oh, well, I feel quite proud of my hand in their nest building then. And what about the others? Obviously, the spoonbills are not going to be breeding.
No. 4 males.
4 males.
That won't be happening.
No, but you have got some really, really pretty little ducks.
We've got the white-faced whistling ducks.
And those are the ones that really do make that lovely whistling call.
Yeah. They're from sort of South America through to Africa below the Sahara.
It's a duckling.
And that is a Carolina duckling.
And the Carolinas, which ones are they?
The female's the sort of, for want of a better word, the boring brown one.
Always the way, isn't it?
And the male is the fancy sort of black with white stripes on its
yes.
head.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just one duckling?
Just the one, yes, unfortunately. But we have got two. There are two other females sitting up in the nest boxes, which will probably be due out in the next few days.
It seems like you've got a big collection in here, a big number of birds, and birds from all over the world. Obviously, they seem to mix in quite well, do they?
We don't really have any problems, apart from with the whistlers. They seem to get quite agitated when any of the others bring ducklings out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and can be quite aggressive. But
Well, and get almost territorial, do they?
yes, they do. But the nice thing is we brought 4 more in this last winter of the whistling ducks, and they seem to have all paired up, and that may help.
Quite a lot of water birds do pair up. Well, it's thought for life. Do you see evidence of that amongst this collection?
I've seen it with the whistlers. They definitely seem to have picked mates and stayed with the same ones so far, and the ringed teal have definitely stayed together. It's difficult to know with the Carolinas. They're a bit of a mob. We've got a few too many males.
And we can't obviously leave out the flamingos, which are, I have to say, I mean, over the, what is it, 2-3 years they've been here now?
3 years now, yeah.
They've gone from being, I hate to say it, but they were sort of slightly dowdy, not terribly exciting looking birds, to really magnificent, proper pink flamingos now.
Yeah, I mean, when we first brought them in, most of them were sort of between 1 and 3 years old, so they were all juveniles and they had the sort of browny colour to them. But now they're all sort of coming up to sexual maturity. They're all sort of adult birds now, if you like.
Does that mean that there's a chance that they will breed this year?
Well, I think maybe it'd probably be a bit much to expect of them this year. They sort of have to breed really as a whole group, and I think some of them are still a bit too young for that.
Right. They look absolutely beautiful. I mean, it is the most joyous thing, just to sit in here in the sunshine, looking at birds with Eland in the background. You do actually have, I think, the nicest section in the park, don't you?
I think I do.
Yeah. Mark, thank you very much.
The most dangerous animals in all of Longleat are the lions. Weighing up to 450 pounds and able to run up to 35 miles per hour, these great cats are some of nature's most fearsome predators. They're armed with 30 teeth for cutting and tearing, and claws sharp enough to rip through any animal hide. No one knows them better than their keepers, who usually prefer to keep a solid barrier between themselves and their charges. Sometimes, though, they have no choice but to get up close and personal. And lucky me, today I'm going with them.
I'm out in the lion enclosure with keeper Bob Trollope, who has a rather unusual task today. Bob, what are we actually doing out here in the middle of the enclosure?
Oh, we're picking up samples, Ben.
Okay.
Obviously, it's something that we have to do from time to time. It's purely sort of, for worming purposes.
So you're going to examine their faeces, basically?
Well, all we have to do is actually collect them, and they're sent off to the vets to examine, and we just get the results.
Okay. And that's not as easy as just going out in your garden and picking up after your dog or cat, is it? Because we are out here with... this is Charlie's Pride, isn't it?
This is Charlie's Pride. You've got Charlie and 6 females just in a short distance away from us.
I was going to say, I mean, they are a matter of sort of 30 feet away.
Yeah, it's a bound away, and they could obviously get us.
Okay, so we probably don't want to hang on too long. I know we've got Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner there. Ian, you're keeping... I know I don't want to distract you, but you're keeping a close eye on them. Are there any kind of things that we should look out for? Any warning signs?
Well, you can see that one is the one walking across. Obviously, she isn't too worried, but there's one that's sort of half sprung.
Yes, with her haunch. You can see her haunches up at the back.
She's watching.
This one's coming a little bit.
Yeah, she's getting a little bit closer.
Who is that? Do you know?
Yeah, that's Sky.
Okay, we should probably move on quite quickly.
I think we ought to just stand back a minute, just in case she does decide to.
Okay.
Guy, where are you going?
Go on.
Go away. We've got all the doors open so that we can jump into any of the vehicles.
We've all got we've got 2 extra patrol vehicles here. because we're actually near them.
Okay.
So it's just a case.
Are we okay? So I suppose we have to find some first as well.
Well, we know that Charlie did leave us a little something earlier.
Okay.
So we know where it is.
Great.
Just down there. So it's just a case of
it's a little bit closer. Okay, and I've got some gloves on, so this should be okay. Am I okay going a little bit closer?
Yeah, you're fine.
You sure?
Yeah. I'll keep an eye on them while you're picking up. You only want a piece. Hey! Yeah. If you get back.
Okay.
Hold on. Hey! Go on.
Sit down.
Okay, this is rather a tense moment. One of the lions has just got up. She was the one that was waiting.
It's curiosity, a lot of it. Obviously, when you bend down, you're vulnerable.
Right.
So that's why, obviously, we've got all this
I feel
security.
even more vulnerable now.
We'll be fine.
Are we still safe doing this, honestly? Because you must say...
Yeah, we've got to pick it up, so we might as well do it now.
Okay, if you watch, I'll quickly... Shall I just let you grab a little
just
bit?
grab a piece. Just put it in the pot.
Ooh, it's quite stinky stuff, isn't it?
It is really fresh, it's good stuff.
That was the quickest collection I've ever done.
Yeah.
Now, quickly, so that we don't have to spend longer than we need here, this will go off to the lab, and what sort of things are you looking for within the...
Well, what they're trying to find is actually worm eggs, and they count them.
Right.
Anything below 50, is safe. 50 is a good count. Anything above that, we worm for. We do worm on a regular basis anyway, so you most probably find that there's...
So this is just to check their overall health and well-being, just to see what else might be in this?
Yeah, it's mainly for worms so that we can, keep them fit and healthy.
Okay, well, I think time to beat a hasty retreat, and we have to do this in the next Pride as well.
Yeah, we have to pick one from each section.
As if that wasn't enough. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Ian.
Back at the camel barn, there's excitement in the air. Yesterday, Bactrian Barley started showing signs that she was ready to give birth. First thing this morning, Head of Section Tim Yo went to check and found what he was hoping for.
I sort of heard, as I was approaching and looked in, and there was the little one, Mum standing over him, and I think he was actually sucking the wall at the time, I think.
The little boy looks healthy, but there's a problem.
I don't think he wants to get up at the minute.
He should be on his feet and feeding by now.
That animal has to drink the vital colostrum, the first milk that comes through from the mother. And that milk holds the antibodies which help to build up an immunity to different ailments that the camel may be subjected to. So, so it's vitally important that they do, and I think it's probably, within the first 3 hours, they need to have that colostrum.
Worryingly, Tim notices a weakness in one of the calf's hind legs, which is making him unsteady on his feet.
The calf, having been sort of folded up miraculously inside the uterus, it's rather crooked, when it comes out. It's not fully straightened up. That can hamper the calf from actually standing up properly.
Tim wants to interfere as little as possible, but the baby must get up and feed soon. He decides to support the leg with a bandage.
Okay.
Tim tries again to encourage the calf to suckle, but even with the support, the little camel's just not steady enough on his feet to manage it.
He's still going out a bit on that.
With the calf still unsteady on his feet and weak from hunger, Tim decides he's going to have to take matters into his own hands.
I'll just try and take some milk off her, see if I can.
If the calf doesn't begin to suckle, keepers may have to step in and hand-rear him. But the baby will need to be fed every 3 hours for months to come. Hand-rearing would be a huge task and could lead to more problems down the road, as Tim knows from bitter experience. The last calf born in the park was Alima. She had to be hand-reared because her mother rejected her. Although she grew up strong and healthy, she was a bit confused about her identity. For a while, she bonded with the Ankoli cattle and used to follow them around. Tim's done all he can to help the young camel bond with his mother and begin to feed by himself. Now he can only hope that hand-rearing won't be necessary.
Now we just go away and leave alone now, I think. But I would like to see very much a situation where we look in and we see little one feeding from mum. We know then that everything that we've done this morning has been okay, and we haven't mucked anything up, and it's helped, and you know, and that's it, sort of thing. Be happy then.
We'll be back to see if the new baby Bactrian will begin to feed from mum, or whether he'll end up on the bottle.
Longleat's great house was built in the late 16th century by Sir John Thynne, an ancestor of the current Lord Bath. For more than 400 years since then, the Thynne family have collected an astonishing array of antiques and artwork. There are more than 500 paintings here, including portraits of many of the great and the good throughout English history who had connections with the house.
I'm on the grand staircase with curator Kate Harris, and we've come to look at a portrait which has recently come back from restoration. And this is the portrait here,
yes,
is it, Kate?
It's a portrait of Ambrose Dudley, Earl of Warwick, and it's been away for just over 2 years.
Wow.
The Dudleys were one of the most important families in England during the reign of Elizabeth I. Ambrose Dudley was Earl of Warwick. The young man is his brother's illegitimate son. As neither of the Dudleys had surviving legitimate sons, it was decided that this boy would be heir to the family title and fortunes. The Earl and his young successor are portrayed standing on a battlefield, ready for action.
So this painting is saying, I'm big, I'm brave, and is it also recognising this boy as a potential heir, rather than hiding him away?
Very true. He's got an absolutely stunning, state-of-the-art little wheel-lock pistol there.
Right.
This is not just a page, this is the heir.
It's very sort of patriarchal, isn't it?
Yes, indeed it is.
Now, you said the way the portrait is now. What do you mean by that?
Well, in the course of restoration, we made several major discoveries about it. One thing, X-ray showed us that the major figure, Ambrose himself, was very differently presented in the original picture.
So you've had the whole painting X-rayed?
Yes, we've had 24 X-rays done during restoration, and if you like, we can go upstairs and have a look at some of them.
That would be great. That would be great. Wow, uncovering a mystery.
Indeed.
The painting came to Longleat in the 17th century, when heirs of the Dudleys married into the Thynne family. It's hung here for centuries, but until recently, no one suspected it might have hidden secrets.
But the key thing about the restoration and the X-rays is to show that this major change in the picture.
The X-rays reveal that underneath the surface is another layer of paint, which made up an earlier image.
Basically, what you've discovered is that there was an original portrait of Dudley, and this one is a new one that's been painted over the top.
Not entirely new, but an adapted version to present a very different, much stronger image. Here, you've got a third hand and a stick. So rather than holding the boar spear in this very sort of strong and aggressive fashion, he was actually shown with a boar spear in the background originally, leaning on a stick.
The background has also been changed from an interior scene to show Ambrose Dudley and his heir standing in front of a military tent, probably at the siege of Newhaven, a battle at which Ambrose had been injured.
See, he was gravely wounded at Newhaven at the siege during a parley. He was actually shot in the leg and was never right afterwards. He never commanded in the field again. So he's shown leaning on a stick. It's quite realistic. He's shown leaning on a stick.
That's quite unusual, isn't it? I mean, don't people usually sort of try and make themselves look much more beautiful or much more grand or healthy?
That's what they decided to do in the second version. So he's then the sole representative of the Dudley dynasty, with his younger brother's illegitimate son next to him as their sole hope now. And so he's shown in this much more, what we might call gung-ho fashion.
But wouldn't it have been much more sensible for somebody as, you know, noble and clearly as rich as this, just to have thrown that old portrait away and just had a completely new one done?
Yeah, we're trying to make up our mind about that. There's two possibilities that we're playing with at the moment. One is that they needed the picture very quickly.
Right,
and
so they had the bare bones of it and they could just do a quick...
So they needed to have, for some occasion, they needed to have this new dynastic picture. or that Ambrose was so ill that he was not available to sit for a new version.
So they just had to kind of make it up?
But there are only hypotheses, we don't know, but there must be some explanation.
Well, Kate, that was absolutely fascinating, incredible to think that after all these years you've discovered this whole new story about this painting. Thank you very much indeed.
Back at the camel barn, a week has passed since the first Bactrian calf born here for 3 years came into the world with a weak hind leg. The calf couldn't feed properly, and head of section Tim Yo was worried that his mother Barley might reject him. Thankfully, over the last few days, the situation has improved dramatically for the young camel. Mother and calf have been allowed outside into a temporary paddock, and to his keeper's delight, the baby's been seen suckling properly. Today it's time for Safari Park vet Duncan Williams to give him his first checkup.
So what did you put the bandage on? Just to try and give it a bit more support?
Just to give that support, yes, yes.
She was kind of flicking over on the fetlock?
She was actually right over.
He, sorry, he.
Oh, he, yes, yeah, right over.
Should we take it off and...
Lovely, yep.
All right.
Hold you, come on.
What Tim was describing is just a kind of weakness in the ligaments, and I think this joint was just kind of collapsing forward as the baby was kind of putting weight on it, but that tends to strengthen as the calf gets strong, you know, the ligaments and the tendons firm up a bit as the calf gets stronger.
Thankfully, the calf's leg has healed well, and otherwise he's fit and healthy.
Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I met you like a man.
Now that he's survived the tricky first week, the keepers have decided to give him a name.
I'm all shook up.
So I understand you're going to call him Elvis, Tim?
Well, the other members of staff certainly are keen on the name. I'm not quite sure.
You're not an Elvis fan yourself, then?
Oh, I am.
Young Elvis is already showing a different character to the shaky newborn of a week ago.
I'm all shook up.
Now the little calf is ready for his next big step. He's making his debut in the enclosure.
Once the baby sort of goes out, he's going to be extremely inquisitive of other animals, and he's going to want to go up and approach them, and some of those animals may not want to be approached, and so it's going to be a pretty hair-raising event, I think, really.
Tim will have to keep a close eye on the calf so he doesn't try to get too friendly with the heavy weights of the enclosure, like the white rhino or the Ancoli cattle.
Come on then. Girls, come on.
Once the baby is out, Tim takes up his position nearby, ready to intervene if he heads into danger.
It really is a serious matter when he goes in among, particularly as he just takes off into the middle of those cattle, and all that one's got to do is give a sharp hook with a horn. We've actually had it happen before, and the baby took them into trouble, and the mother tried to protect the baby, and one of the bull Ancoli just, as the mother went by, he flicked his horn and he disemboweled her, literally. I mean, she did survive, I have to say, miraculously, but it was nasty.
Suddenly, young Elvis heads straight towards the Ancoli herd, forcing his mum to follow. Tim jumps into action.
It's a nightmare because, I mean, you don't know where he's going to go next, and to manoeuvre a vehicle, you often don't get it right the first time, and you're praying that nothing happens.
The scare is over. It's been a bumpy first week for Elvis, but now he's safely out in the enclosure with the herd. Tim can look forward to watching him grow up.
It's just a joy to see them out on a day like this. The weather makes everything, and the time of year. All in all, I mean, I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's a good picture at the moment, really.
We'll catch up with Elvis's progress later in the series.
We're down in Pets Corner with Head of Section Darren Beasley and one of the enormous African pouch rats that we're trying to take for a walk, Darren, but doesn't seem to...
Wants to go that way.
Wants to walk me, I think, rather than the other way round. They're amazing looking animals, but this is fairly new for them, isn't this walking?
Yeah, we've only done this a few times before now. Getting them used to the soft halty there. I'm going to start bringing them out and hopefully eventually let the visitors walk them around as well. That's the plan. But
and this one, is this the one that seems to be responding better, or are they both sort of equally good?
We've got one that's very feisty, which is this fella. It's all very new coming out, and they're not exactly particularly friendly at the moment either.
Okay.
They've got massive great teeth, so
it gloves. Could give you a nasty bite.
Yeah,
so
I've got special gloves just in case.
And we need to keep our feet and legs a bit clear of him.
Totally.
Fantastic. Well, Darren, thank you very much. Kate, should we continue?
Yeah, do you want to have a go? There you go.
Absolutely. Sadly, that's all we've got time for on today's programme. But here's what's coming up on the next Animal Park. Come on, Razzie. Come on, this way.
The rare paired-avid stag has got its antlers in a twist.
Oh, I hit him, did I?
Tim Yo has to take drastic action.
We catch up with the new arrivals. At the camel barn, Bactrian baby Elvis has bounced onto the scene. While out in the paddock, there are 3 new kids on the block.
And I have a rare opportunity to get a close look at the new wolf cubs at just 5 days old.
That's all coming up on the next Animal Park.
Expect a roar, and it's not from the lions as flamboyant Lord Bath passes responsibility onto his son. It's all change at Longleat Monday night at 9 on BBC One. Here on 2 next, a chinchilla with tooth decay in More Creatures Great and Small.